Vegetarian video for Vlogardome debates and such. So we'll just go run through it pretty quickly. Why become a vegetarian seems ethically mandatory. I would expect any civilizing entity on Earth, no matter what it was, Tyrannosaurus, great white shark, if it gains intelligence, it figures out that the primary component of its value, the thing that creates the welfare state in it, the meaning, the substance, is the fact that it feels. That this capacity to be harmed in some sort of, not just mechanical way, but some sort of deprivation and degradation of a feeling state. That to put something in a negative feeling state is a meaningful, powerful, substantive thing, and that's the core of us. That's what gives our substance, our existence meaning, is the fact that we can be harmed in that way. That this thing, this feeling entity, this goo can be affected in a way that creates this obnoxious sensation. And anything that can experience the obnoxious sensation deserves and has earned and should get respect. And it's just a rational conclusion. And if you don't need to create extra of them to be harmed, and if you don't need to enslave them to your desire and gluttony, then you don't do it, because it's just wrong. It's just taking, and it's just exploitation of something that has your core value. You're guilty of a crime of hypocrisy and duplicity if you think you're entitled and they're not. It's just rational. So yeah, that's the simple argument. Sort of. Anyway, that's the outline. And we'll go. I did take notes, but they're really vague, and so we'll deal with them in this vague sense. Original nature is always, people always arguing that it's our nature to be carnivorous, and of course it's not. It's completely fire dependent. Without fire, there is no meat eating for the Homo sapien. There's nothing fundamentally yummy about raw beef or gazelle or antelope or whatever, even frog. Cooking is what makes it sweet and edible. And so it's completely something that's only been around for human beings since they controlled fire. So it's their new nature, not their old nature. We certainly don't have the hardware for chasing down and ripping to pieces raw flesh. Not only mechanical hardware, we don't have teeth, nor do we have the physical body that's durable enough to withstand biting and fighting back with animals. It just isn't a sensible notion that we were carnivores. Beyond that, we can't get any value out of it without cooking it. If you don't cook it, you're not going to digest it. It's not a food source. It's a good way to starve to death. Eating raw meat, you can starve to death doing that. Okay. So no condition to preference addiction. Nothing more than that. The food taste. It's like liking baseball or liking football or whatever else you get caught up in doing, and then you get sort of attached to it. You have to know every week how it's going to come out because you're addicted to it. And the same thing happens to people in terms of their food preferences. Their body becomes kind of addicted to it, and the pattern becomes the obligation. And I'm not suggesting necessarily that people have to break that pattern and go through some unpleasantness to transition, but I am suggesting that they should at least advocate that people attempt to raise their children free of that addiction, free of that behavioral psychology, and that they are doing them a favor. They'll be healthier and happier, and there's nothing to lose by giving up feeding on your brethren. Anyway, No biological necessity. Well, certainly not. All the other big primates are mostly vegetarian, if not exclusively vegetarian. The ones with the nastiest teeth, gorillas, baboons. Quite obviously, teeth is a manifestation of defense, not food choices or aggression. But clearly, we're not built anything like those animals. We're built a lot like an orangutan. It's primarily vegetarian. No damage to quality of life. You don't sacrifice anything by being free of meat. Now, I wasn't raised free of meat. I had to transition myself to be free of meat. It wasn't that big a deal, so I am suggesting it's certainly doable, and I'm sure the sentient creatures that are going to be abused and unceremoniously and without any real appreciation, murdered to satisfy your food choice, would appreciate you just transitioning. Just find something else to eat. There's a ton of stuff to eat. There really is. You can make a sandwich out of anything. I'm telling you, almost anything you put between two slices of bread, and it's edible. All right, enslavement, rape, murder, abuse. You can just come up with all kinds of words for the imposition of your will against something else for your purposes to satisfy your needs. And that intrinsically is dangerous behavior, and you should be able to just see how it's just wrong because you have a slightly better cognitive capacity, that you're going to sit there and minimize and diminish their feeling state and say they don't feel anything and pretend that that's the truth, and it's just not. Nature's cruelty does not justify human cruelty. So this argument comes up a lot, like, well, nature sucks, so why can't I suck? No, sorry. No sale. The fact that nature doesn't care, the fact that nature will kill 10 lion cubs for every one that reach maturity, and other organisms have much worse attrition rates. A lot of mammals have 3 or 4 spawns a year, and you just do the math that most of those, 90% of those, have to die. That will die before they reach maturity. It's brutal and horrible in nature. You die badly often. Slow, miserable, nasty. You live that way often. And it's no justification for us piling on and saying, well, we're going to engineer a whole bunch of extra slave environments, where these animals will live in our confinement, our concentration camps, and be tortured for our gratification. It's just disgusting. No defense beyond self-serving rationalizations. There really isn't. There's no defense for the behavior. We know the organisms are sentient. We know that's our primary value function. That's the primary thing that makes our lives and our welfare respectable. So you can't claim a right to have your welfare respected if you can't give the same respect to other organisms in the same predicament as yourself, being a feeling organism. And you're the one with the intelligence. You're the one that should know better and do better. What dumb animals do is what dumb animals will do because they're dumb. You don't have that excuse. So it's just more rationalizations to sit there and say your intelligence is smart enough to grab them and mechanically rip their pieces off of them, but you don't have the intelligence to know that's wrong. Come on. Bullshit. Exploitist mentality, causing unnecessary suffering. That's all there is. You're just exploiting something because you can, and the fact that it's unnecessary suffering is just a fact. You don't need to do it to live, and to live well. You can live better without meat. You will likely live longer and healthier. It's probably a hugely statistically demonstratably a fact, and for some unknown reason the government won't publish those kinds of studies, but maybe that's what the Center for Disease Control should do with some of its money. Maybe it should point out to people that maybe you could live 10 years longer and you'll live, many years healthier if you extract all that junk food out of your diet. The feeling capacity of most of the organisms we farm and consume is not dissimilar or inferior enough to escape accusation of hypocrisy and duplicity. Well, I've made that point earlier, but yeah, it's just so basic to this argument. You just can't claim that you're not a mammal. You can't claim that you share a huge amount of things in common with mammals. You're basically cannibalizing your own sentient kind, and you can rationalize it all you want, but that's what you're doing. Firefox just blew up again. Thank you very much. It's done it a couple of times in videos. It doesn't really crash as often as it might imply from the fact that it's doing it in the middle of videos. Of course, it'll try to reload everything that it just crashed over having loaded. It's really not very smart either. Anyway, speciesism. No more enlightened than nepotism or racism. Nepotism or racism. Yeah, so all you're doing is you're just being an ignorant speciesist, an ignorant nepotist, believing your kids are better. Your form of mammal existence is far superior because you can add numbers and you can cheat on your wife, or you can do some other kind of bullshit that animals can't do. At least as a conception, but certainly they can emote, they can feel, they can experience positive and negative sensations, they can feel comfort, they can do it. Don't delude yourself. And they can feel uncomfort, discomfort, they can suffer, and it's a fact. And the only rational way to deal with that fact is to realize that eating meat is just a stupid thing that stupid humans did for a short period of time in all of their evolution. It's only been recently since they controlled fire, and that you can just go back to being a real human again. Okay, quit pretending that there's something better or superior in cannibalizing your own kind. It's embarrassing that you can't do better than that. I find it embarrassing that human beings can't do a little better than this. A lot better than this. So, yeah, I think that's I don't think there's any rational counter-argument defending causing this unnecessary harm to indulge a culturally imposed food preference. It's just stupid. It's ignorant. It's unreasonable. Period. Thank you very much.